calling all 90s girls, 90s moms, and 90s fans. If you were a true lady of the 90s, then you were one of these three fragrances. Make sure you grab a pumpkin spice latte or a mug of hot apple cider because today we are taking a deep dive into some 90s fall fragrances from Bath & Body Works, then versus now. When I think of Bath & Body Works fall back in the day in the 90s and early 2000s, three main fragrances come to mind, and believe it or not, these are all fragrances that are pretty easy to get a hold of today. Every fall, or even year-round for some of these fragrances, Bath & Body Works keeps these scents in stock so that your nostalgia is easily accessible. So of these three fragrances, I was actually able to find some old vintage and original versions of these scents. So we're going to compare and contrast old versus new, and we're going to see how much these fragrances truly have varied over the years or have stayed the same. So as you may know, Bath & Body Works established as a company in 1990. During these very early years, Bath & Body Works had a little bit of a different approach. There was a lot of dark green and more apothecary wellness themes in their items. Bath & Body Works was very similar to The Body Shop, so much so that there was actually a lawsuit filed, and the outcome from this lawsuit was actually an out-of-court agreement or settlement in which Bath & Body Works had to change its brand image and merchandising and the look of its stores so that it would be more differentiated from The Body Shop. This happened in 1991, and I view this as kind of the shift from the more apothecary look that they used to have in their very original days into what my favorite era is, the Heartland era. They switched from that more wellness shift to the more farm stand country, apple basket, homespun kind of look. I was noticing a lot of Bath & Body Works' more iconic and well-known historical fragrances often come from the late 90s. A lot of the products or fragrances that come before 1995 are kind of lost and forgotten, not discussed very often online. What happened in Bath & Body Works' timeline that caused all of these products to be more from 1998, 1999, and even 2000, 2001. Why is it that those are the fragrances that are most iconic to us as a nostalgic community on the internet? And why don't we talk about things from before? So I really view that lawsuit as being one of the main reasons. Also, something else was happening at Bath & Body Works. They were originally just a novelty, specialty kind of store, but what was happening during this time frame was they were really working on expansion, and they were really turning into a store anchor or a mall anchor, something that really becomes a main destination feature every time you go to the mall. So that was a big difference for them. And with that attempt to expand, which they were successful, by the way, because pretty much every mall now has a Bath & Body Works. Being more than just a novelty store, if you're going to be a bigger scale corporate business, you need a way to streamline making more merchandise at a higher volume, and you also have to have a really recognizable mass market appeal. So only one out of these three iconic fall 90s fragrances I view as being pre-Bath & Body Works expansion days, and that is the fragrance called Country Apple. You may recognize Country Apple as looking more like this. This bottle was released the late summer, early fall of 2025 this year, and it was an online exclusive nostalgia throwback, kind of a nod to the oldies fragrances. And Country Apple we have actually had as a throwback fragrance a couple different times as well, but this is the most modern and current version. Not only is the fragrance from the past, but I am loving the nod to the nostalgia with the Sunburst logo from the 90s and 2000s, and also the use of a cursive font is very iconic of Bath & Body Works of that time. I think everyone can agree when I say if you lived through the 90s, whether you were a toddler or you were a mom or a grandma even, you pretty much didn't escape Country Apple. You know what this smells like. You've smelt it before. Even if you weren't aware you were smelling Country Apple, it was Country Apple. Here's what the 2025 cream and shower gel look like. Very nostalgic, and I love the more watercolor illustrated look to it. That was very iconic of the 2000s packaging as well. I'll make sure to have a slideshow of pictures off to the side here showing some different versions and packagings of Country Apple throughout the year. But I have two products with me today that are very, very old of Country Apple. Let me show you those. I have a little mason jar single wick candle of Country Apple that I found at the thrift store of all places. This is from the year 1999, and I feel like the 2025 was really mimicking this art style. Of course, we have our little watercolor picture there and our cursive font and the Sunburst logo like I mentioned. So I love how they mimicked that in this year's edition. Before the Heartland era, they had a much more simplistic approach to their fragrances and their forms available. So you never actually really saw much home fragrance at the time. They kept it pretty much to body wash and bar soap, lotion, and body splash. It was just body care and very simplistic forms of body care at that. So once they did switch over to the Heartland era and they were working on expansion through the late 90s, early 2000s, was the wider availability of different forms to be able to appeal to a wider market. And so we start seeing some little candles like this Country Apple single wick here. Preserved perfectly, not burnt at all. Not only did we have the lid with the art on it, but also embossed into this mason jar is the Sunburst logo with Bath & Body Works written on there. And here we have our body splash. This may be the oldest Country Apple body splash out there. I'm not sure because it's hard to pinpoint an exact release year. You know, you look it up online and you see, oh, there's bottles from 1997, 1998, and it'll just be kind of general and say, this is a late 90s fragrance. But this one dates all the way back to 1995. But this is what some of the oldest body splashes look like from Bath & Body Works. It's very simplistic and straightforward. It says Country Apple body splash with moisturizing aloe vera. Unfortunately, I don't have any original price on this bottle, but keep in mind this was 7.8 fluid ounces. Later on, we'll compare prices from then versus now as well, and maybe I'll have like a little inflation calculator so we can kind of see the difference there. But this says Bath & Body Works Body Splash contains the natural moisture refresher aloe vera to gently stimulate and cool the body. It is scented with Country Apple. Splash on after bath or shower. They don't even list notes or anything. It's like, this is scented like Country Apple. Even in the ingredients, it says alcohol, purified water, Country Apple fragrance. They're gonna protect that. They don't want you to know what that Country Apple is. I don't know if you can see that in the green text, but it says created in the Heartland. I love it so much. That's so cute. So as you saw, there were no deep dive into the note listings for Country Apple. It just said Country Apple fragrance. But we have a note listing here and it stayed pretty consistent from any other older versions that I've seen for Country Apple. It's Apple Blossom, Fresh Muguet, which is Lily of the Valley, Sheer Sunlight, and Orchard Woods. It's time to compare sniffs. So first I'm going to spray our 2025 on this tester card over here. Nostalgia in a bottle. I'm being very careful to not overspray and overuse so that I can preserve as much of these originals as possible, but I am going to spray, for the sake of the video, some of this original 1995 Country Apple on my blotter card too. Ooh, so there are some differences. Aww. I would say that the 1995 Country Apple is much more sour and tart of an apple. It's more straightforward, juicy, edible apple. While the 2025 Country Apple, it smells the same, except I feel like I am able to pick apart those notes a little bit more easily. Everything inside the fragrance is more noticeable. I smell the juicy, edible, straightforward apple note, but there's a lot of like clean, floral, pretty perfume kind of scent to it as well. Both of them I would consider to be a soapy, classic quintessential 90s apple scent. But moral of the story on this one is the vintage one is much more fruity forward, while the modern one is a little more of a floral forward scent. In terms of strength, I feel like the 2025 version dissipated much quicker on the paper. I feel like when you get it on skin, it does last for a longer time because it kind of mingles with the warmth of your skin and your body chemistry. But with the paper, it just kind of feels like it evaporated immediately. And so I'm left with a very soft, vague, floral meets apple blossom fragrance. While the paper of the vintage Country Apple is much more strong after a few minutes of spraying. So back to the subject of Bath & Body Works making a lot of changes in the late 90s into the early 2000s. We're talking expansion. We're aggressively trying to get a Bath & Body Works in every mall across the country. We need a way to make more fragrances faster at a higher volume. And we also want to make these fragrances more accessible. We want to make these fragrances unique yet recognizable and meeting to a wider market appeal. So old school Bath & Body Works fall fragrance number 2 is Warm Vanilla Sugar. Warm Vanilla Sugar was actually a replacement fragrance for the original scent called Vanilla Bean. So officially launched in 1999, Warm Vanilla Sugar was first seen on shelves and it was a less foodie replacement for the simplistic Vanilla Bean. Rumor has it that the 1999 fragrance of Warm Vanilla Sugar is is widely different from what you can get today from warm vanilla sugar in stores. I'm going to debunk or confirm that for you. We're gonna smell them back to back. And here is how I'm going to do it. This is so wild to me. This is a gift set that I bought from Goodwill online. I actually won an auction and I don't think anybody else actually bid for it. It was just me. I think it was just one of those listings that went under the radar, and so I won this bid. So this is an intact warm vanilla sugar gift set. I don't know exactly what year it is yet because I haven't opened it. I thought I'd open it on camera for you, so let's do a little unboxing. So who had this gift set sitting in their home all of these years just unused? This is so crazy. Wow, this is a nice one too. So we have this lacy covering over it, and it's a very interesting periwinkle. I'm not 100% sure if this was actually how it was sold. It suggests to me that it wasn't, considering this was rubber band. It would seem more in character for Bath & Body Works to have a ribbon or some kind of more official tie on it, and maybe a tag describing that this is a warm vanilla sugar gift set, perhaps. I'm assuming that this has just lived many years through someone else's home, and so this is what we get. I think this is pretty crazy though. Let's open it up. All right, I got the rubber band off. We're opening it up. Wow, it even still comes on a tray too. Ta-da! So it looks like it originally did have a wrap like this around it. I'm glad that it's open because I would feel so guilty opening this. I was gonna do it no matter what because I need to smell these and I wanna know, but it makes me feel a little bit better that I don't have to be the one to puncture this plastic and open it up officially. This ribbon is tied around the fine fragrance mist. I wonder if that was originally what was tied on the outside. So this is a 5-piece gift set. We've got our body splash, and I just love it when they had like this bumpy top on the fragrance mists, or body splash I should say. We have a interesting looking bath bubbles bottle. We've got body lotion, a candle, and a shower gel as well. Let me take this apart a little bit. So I just confirmed now these items are all completely unused, which is so weird that it survived all of these years with nobody touching it. You know how they put that gummy stuff on it to get it to stick together as a unit? Like they'll put it on the bottom so it sticks to the tray without falling over. So it still was all sealed onto the tray and onto each other. So completely unused. So crazy. I just love when they did the watercolor art in the cursive font there. Warm vanilla sugar, and I have a year for you. This is from the year 2000. So at this point, warm vanilla sugar would have been a year or less old. So this is about as close to the original as you're gonna probably find online. Ew, look at the top is getting kind of that weird chunky. I love the way that they designed this label. That looks so 90s, like it's giving Global Village Coffee House a little bit. It's swirly and cursive, but it's still fancy. It almost looks kind of 80s-ish to me. So this says relaxing bath bubbles, warm vanilla sugar with skin soothing chamomile. Notice how on all of these bottles we've looked at so far, they're always talking about the soothing or like the wellness properties to it. So before it was talking about the refreshing aloe in the spray, now we're talking about the skin soothing chamomile in the bath bubbles. And also, here's a fun little detail I just noticed too on this cap. Look at how they have like a little vine swirl on there. So cool. I'll read the back to you. When bath time is the only time you have to yourself, indulge with our pampering bubble bath. A couple of capfuls treats you to long-lasting, skin-softening bubbles and the comforting fragrance of warm vanilla sugar. Our special ingredients: chamomile soothes skin, and sweet almond oil softens and conditions. Pour 2 or 3 capfuls directly under warm running bath water. For adult external use only. The natural oils in this product may cause a slight change in color. So yeah, they did talk about, oh, I can see that moving in there. I wasn't sure how solidified that was, but yeah, the top of it looks a little unsavory. I'm kind of scared to smell this because it doesn't look really tasty on the top, but oh yeah. Wow, that smells surprisingly good. That is weird that I'm saying that because honestly, even though I'm a gourmand fan, I never have been a true warm vanilla sugar fan, but this smells exactly how I remember warm vanilla sugar in my mind. My mom actually had one of these glittery lotions. I'm not sure if I can find an exact picture of the warm vanilla sugar one, but I know I've seen other scents with the same exact packaging and form from the same year, so I'll do my best to provide a picture. But it was a shimmer lotion and it came with like a little pump and it kind of came out like a gel a little bit. I think the year would have been 2000 or 2001, and it was actually a holiday gift that my mom received and one of the very earliest personal experiences I had with Bath & Body Works in general, but also more specifically with Warm Vanilla Sugar in the 90s, 2000s. It smelled exactly how I remember it, and I will confirm it does have a different essence to it than modern day Warm Vanilla Sugar. We gotta look at more of these products. Such a cute bottle. Loving the green cap and the shape of these bottles. We love our original Sunburst logo and our watercolor with the cursive. It's so iconic. Unfortunately, this lotion looks a little bit like it might be one solid chunk. When I opened it up like this and squeezed it, it kind of all moved together instead of behaving like normal lotion should. It's pretty dried up. That's what happens when I squeeze it. It just kind of comes out as a whole unit. So smells surprisingly good, but kind of like a very, very weak version of Warm Vanilla Sugar. Like, it's just faded away, but that's okay. Here is the shower gel. I think I'm gonna release it so that it can breathe again. A lot of these bottles were squished tight together. Okay, so in the shower gel, it says that there's papaya extract that helps cleanse and smooth. So far, I think that either the lotion or the shower gel smell the least good. Surprisingly, the bath bubbles, even though they looked the grossest on the inside, have smelled the best so far. This one had a little bit of a sour, slight paint smell. I think that's just due to age. I was able to pry this candle off of the tray. It was not easy, but I was able to do it and preserve it the best I could. So this label was actually stuck onto the tray and the candle was not attached to the tray anymore. So I peeled this part off and then I carefully peeled this off. It doesn't really stick to the candle anymore because the side that's sticky is the side we want to read. So that item's not doing too hot with age, but still so pretty and fun to look at. And this says, "We delight in the comforting scent of oven fresh confections." That's cute. I love that. Home fragrance candle. Burn time is approximately 40 hours for this little guy. 40 hours. It just has wick trimming instructions and that it's created in America's heartland. That barcode, it just says vanilla sugar. We're back in 2024 and 2025. Those are the years that these products are from. I've got a body lotion 2024, and then I picked up this little fine fragrance mist just the other day, so 2025 for this one. Notes listed on the bottle for the 2024 lotion are intoxicating vanilla, white orchid, sparkling sugar, fresh jasmine, and creamy sandalwood. Not on this bottle necessarily, but I was able to find an older notes listing for Warm Vanilla Sugar from around the late 90s, early 2000s. This notes listing was broken down by top, middle, and base notes. The top notes are vanilla and floral notes. Middle is vanilla, rice, and coconut. Then the base notes are vanilla, sandalwood, musk, and this last note, heliotrope, which I had to look up just now. So apparently this is a fragrant flowering plant. It's purple or red. It's very iconic for its fragrance apparently, and it's compared often to marzipan, vanilla, or cherry pie. So that's really interesting. So I think it's time we compare and contrast 1999 versus 2025 Warm Vanilla Sugar. Going in with our modern Warm Vanilla Sugar. It's nostalgic, but it has like a light powdery floral kind of scent to it. It's not overly gourmand or sweet, and it's surprisingly not very heavy or rich too. You think of things like Vanilla Romance, and that one has quite a heaviness to it. This one is surprisingly airy and clean. It almost has like a shimmering or sparkling kind of scent to it. And now it's time to spray our 1999 version of Warm Vanilla Sugar. Alright, so I'm trying to get past the fact that this is an older spray, and we do have a little bit of nail polish remover going on, but as it's drying down, that kind of old spray scent is going away. Ironically, I think I almost have to do my review on the bubble bath, despite it looking kind of nasty on the top there. This smelled very accurate to how I remember it and very pure. It doesn't have an old scent or a used scent like sometimes your vintage products might get after many, many years. So I think I need to do my comparison based off of that, but really quickly, I will say that this is a little bit more warm and like a cozy hug, while the 2025 had more of this shimmery, sparkling airiness to it that I'm not getting from the 1999 version. This is more comforting. But switching back to smelling these bath bubbles, again, so comforting. And it does have more of a baked treat scent. But it has like this warm, creamy, almost nutty scent. The floral aspect in the vintage Warm Vanilla Sugar from 1999 is more of a spicy, warm floral, while the floral aspect of the modern 2025 2005 is more of this powdery experience. I, by far, enjoy the fragrance of the vintage warm vanilla sugar much better than the modern day. I will say, as I'm smelling these and comparing my modern versus my vintage fragrances from fall, they are different, but the changes are just very slight. I can understand how that can play a difference in body chemistry, but they're recognizable. And honestly, just like how people grow up, I feel like it's the same person, but it's just grown up a little bit. It's changed a little bit over time, just as a person would. So it's still recognizable and it still is that same fragrance, but there's just kind of maybe notes or different things I notice heavier in one version over another, if that makes sense. So far, even though there are those differences, I am quite pleased at how these fragrances have stayed nearly the same over time given the circumstances. All right, 90s fall fans, we've got one more fragrance to cover, and this one embodies the last change that Bath & Body Works made during these late 90s, early 2000s that really set them apart from other companies. And this is still a tactic that they use today, and it is very successful. And that is the use of seasonal launches. So as you see that Bath & Body Works in the late 90s and early 2000s, it's getting bigger, it's becoming an anchor and a staple and household name in every single mall. They wanted to give consumers a reason to keep coming back to Bath & Body Works. And by releasing seasonal and limited edition fragrances that pertain to whatever is going on with the calendar is an excellent and successful way that they keep consumers like you and me excited and always wondering what's coming next. But then also there's this balance where we always have lots of newness, but we also have to hold firm in our nostalgia and our tradition. And so thus the idea of fall traditions and holiday traditions has come about. And with that, we have our third and final fragrance from the 90s fall classics, and that is Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin. So Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin is a fragrance that you can purchase from Bath & Body Works every single fall. They have it in home fragrance consistently, but in the last few years, the body care has been an online exclusive only. I feel like the home fragrance versus the body care of Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin varies quite differently, so for the sake of this video, we're mainly just talking about the body care fragrance. When I googled and tried to look into what year Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin was launched as a body care, it was telling me that it was from the year 2003, but I know that's not true because right here with me today, I have a bottle from 2000 of Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin Body Splash. Look at how beautiful this packaging is. To me, this just screams Thanksgiving and harvest parties. It has such a cozy, warm look to the packaging that just makes you feel so comforted. On here it says Body Splash Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin Fall Edition. It says Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin Bath & Body Works Body Splash is a refreshing scent for your whole body. Spritz it on and let the spicy, warm scent of Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin give your spirits a lift. And then again, it has the aloe vera that moisturizes your skin when you spray, and then it says the spicy warm scent of Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin. So, is this the very first Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin to ever exist in body care? Probably. Here is what Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin looks like today. You will probably recognize this was our 2025 online exclusive edition. And just look at these differences. It has gone through many different packaging changes and different marketing ideas. We've had versions that are very Halloween-y and look more perfect for October or spooky season. And then we've had like this one here that reminds me of a warm, cozy Thanksgiving at home. And then we've got this one that kind of looks a little bit more sophisticated and sleek. So fragrance notes on our modern day Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin are heirloom pumpkin, autumn cinnamon, ginger snap, and whipped vanilla. Also, there's a blurb on the back, I didn't notice this earlier. Inspired by the arrival of autumn, enjoy the simple pleasure of a pumpkin and cinnamon treat. So it's interesting here how they say enjoy the simple pleasure. I feel like if you know, you know. They used to call all of their signature fragrant body care simple pleasures. I'm taking that as a sign that that was a nod to Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin's early days, and I appreciate it. Now, notes listing for an older version of Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin. Back in 2013, it had a breakdown of notes, again, top, middle, and base. And they had pumpkin, apple, and ginger as the top notes. The middle notes were cinnamon, ginger, and jasmine, while the base notes were vanilla, rum, and amber. So this one was quite a complex blend of fragrances. While even though it's complex, it's interesting how they market these used to be so simplistic and straightforward. I feel like that makes it a little bit more accessible. I feel like back then they were appealing to a larger market as well as a younger market as well. And so having more simplistic but still really colorful and fun, comforting ideas behind their marketing for body care, I feel like that was a good idea for who they were selling to at the time. Let's smell our 2025 Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin first. It smells good this year. I have had Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin many times and I've used many different versions of it. I feel like I'm noticing more of the cinnamon in this year's Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin than in past years. I've been using a bottle from, I think it's 2016, for a really long time. And to me, it doesn't really smell like cinnamon or pumpkin. It smells nice. It's a little bit more like a fruity, harvesty, soapy version of pumpkin, if that makes sense. But it doesn't really smell like a baked treat. I wouldn't consider it gourmand. It just kind of has that like nod to the 90s harvest scent. And finally, going in with our 2000 fall edition of Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin. What? Whoa. That is not what I was expecting at all. Guess what? This smells like the candle. I feel like the candle and body care Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin as I know it from the more modern days smell completely different. This smells very similar to what I view as smelling like the candle nowadays. Much more deep, it's caramely, it smells like sweets. I would classify modern day Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin as not being a gourmand. I view it as being like a spicy, fruity scent because of the way it smells. This is a gourmand. This smells like sweet treats. It smells like a maple pumpkin. It smells like it has toasted pumpkin seeds. It's like actually a pumpkin scent. Whoa, I was not expecting that at all. It smells very jack-o'-lantern-y. Okay, so I'll set the mood here. Imagine everything you know about the last 5 years of what Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin in a body spray smells like. You got that in your head? Now add toasted pumpkin seeds and add them being drizzled with a salted caramel flavored maple syrup over the pumpkin seeds. And then someone is carving pumpkins in the other room while you're roasting those seeds. That's what that smells like. All right, 90s fall friends, that is my summary of fall fragrances from Bath & Body Works. The top 3 fragrances. If you lived in the 90s, you were one of these 3 characters. So select your characters down below in the comments. Were you team country apple? If so, leave an apple emoji. If you were using warm vanilla sugar all fall long in the 90s or 2000s, leave a cupcake emoji. If you were hyped by those seasonal releases and Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin was your fall go-to back then leave a jack-o'-lantern emoji down below. If you weren't using Bath & Body Works in the 90s, still leave me a corresponding emoji saying which one you would have chosen had you been there in the 90s and 2000s. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful and I will see you next time. Bye.